letting the world know that they've had enough, and fair play to them. Anyway, yeah, just before I get completely off the subject of Dublin, the core group that I experienced the evening with, my hat's off to you as well, fellas. You were all pretty much of the same mind, and you're going about it in an intelligent way. Mr. T, Vince, Harry, and others kind of leading the way, but other individual sovereign minds all around them, and that's a good core group to be building a larger group from. And in this year, I think it's important that our groups are grown and encouraged to grow. Anyone who isn't already a member of a group, you should really start to look around and see what groups of like-minded people you can get involved with. Pondman over in High Wycombe there has certainly got the ball rolling in that regards. I was privileged enough to attend one of his gatherings on Saturday there, and had a 10-minute lesson on how to build a rocket stove in the freezing cold, wee small hours, but we got it going. It's something I could replicate again, just with loose bricks and a little bit of metal, and the thing was up and running in literally minutes. And once the airflow through it had been established, it really did look like a rocket engine with the flames flying out the top of this structure. The only problem with that is, along with those flames went most of the heat, but if you stood close enough to it, you were able to feel that yes, indeed, it was freezing cold outside. However, a slight modification to that would allow the equal distribution of heat to all those around, and I urge everyone to look into these things. And for those of you with suitably constructed homes, you might want to actually look at building a similar thing to the rocket stove that Dave's introduced me to, and yourselves, if you've been tuning into his show on a Tuesday 6 till 9, is an item known as the Kakelofen or tile stove. And these things are absolutely phenomenal. If you have a fireplace in your house with a brick chimney and whatnot, you've actually got the flue basically already there. All you need to do is to remove the fireplace surrounds, you know, the hearth and the back panel and whatnot, and you can build your tile stove, tile oven straight onto that. And the amount of heat these things are responsible for putting out evenly and over a long period of time is quite phenomenal compared to the amount of fuel you're actually burning. So look into those things. Anyway, one last thank you to all the TNS sovereigns that I met over in Dublin and the surrounding areas, most of which I've seen courtesy of a car trip with my pal Joe, who just decided to show me the sights of Dublin and the surrounding mountains and whatnot on his way to Sovereign Richie Man's house one night. And it was grand to see everyone there, very friendly indeed. For those of you that haven't been to Ireland, or Southern Ireland to be fair, I've never been to Northern Ireland, certainly it's worthwhile going and experiencing some of what I did. If you do it through the TNS chat room as well, I'm sure there's plenty of people who are going to be courteous enough to maybe take you on a little tour of like-minded sovereigns when you're over there. But if you are over there, you've got to check out that Dublin Spire. That's just something just not quite right about it. Anyway, vaccination. something that first involved me looking into all things alternative was probably vaccination. Something I've received more than my fair share of. As a child, I travelled around a fair bit with my father being in the forces, and with every posting came with it a set of inoculations against whatever was perceived to be the prevalent diseases in the areas we were going to. So I had a whole host of them, and it wasn't obvious to me, and it didn't seem to be obvious to any doctors at the time, that when I came down with various ailments, it was never attributed to vaccines. I mean, come on, how could it be? They're the very things designed to keep us fit and healthy, aren't they? Well, a book that was lent to me some years ago called Vaccination, written by a medical researcher by the name of Vera Scheibner, PhD, really opened my eyes on the subject, and after reading that I jumped in with both feet. And bearing in mind I'm kind of from a background, my father's involved in the medical industry on the military side. He's not a doctor, but he comes wholeheartedly from the orthodox approach, and a lot of that belief was instilled into me. So it wasn't until I really started to look into this that some doubts were raised, and I've reasonably well researched it to the point where I'm absolutely convinced, and I'd be quite happy to say this to the face of any medical practitioner, that vaccination is not as it seems. And I'd like just to read you the foreword from this book, written by Dr. Robert Mendelsohn. He says, and I quote, "I do not believe in modern medicine. I am a medical heretic. I haven't always been a medical heretic. I once believed in modern medicine. 15 years ago, when I graduated from medical school, I would have been surprised to be writing a foreword to a book against vaccination. I was a conservative, orthodox doctor just off the medical school production line. I have changed greatly. My ideas have changed. I've also become a medical heretic. The more I read and study, the more I believe that medicine is heading in the wrong direction. I'm not denying that modern medicine has done some marvellous things. Acute emergencies and trauma management are unparalleled, but that's where its usefulness ends. Modern medicine is trying to control nature. This is totally wrong. We should be working with nature." Now, if that sits right with you, stay with me as I introduce you to some of the findings by Vera Scheibner herself. This is her foreword to her own book, Vaccination. "On 12th of October 1985, my life changed profoundly. On that day I met Leif Carlson, a biomedical electronics engineer specializing in patient monitoring systems. After only a few hours' acquaintance, on learning of his professional specialty, I asked him to develop a breathing monitor for babies. He said yes. 1 year and 1 day later, the first cot watch went to the first parents wishing to monitor their newborn baby's breathing. We decided to rent the first 150 units and to keep in close contact with the parents who used them. And soon some 20 units were out there working, and sometime later parents started ringing us to report the cot watch was sounding alarms. And just to make sure anyone who's not familiar with the cot watch, this was the first device of its kind that you just fitted to the side of the cot that your newborn baby was in, and it sounded an alarm if it couldn't detect the rate of the baby's breathing. And this thing went global in a relatively short period of time and was used in a lot of homes and then some hospitals. And that's what Vera Scheibner is actually best known as. She's being attributed as the co-inventor to this cot watch. Anyway, a few questions soon established that alarms occurred at certain hours while babies were deeply asleep. Clusters of 5 to 7 short alarms sounded within about a 15-minute period. These occurred after the baby had been exposed to stress, or happened a day or two before the child went down with a common cold or cut its first tooth. An important fact about the vast majority of these alarms was that the babies had not actually stopped breathing, but rather were breathing very shallowly. In most cases, no intervention was needed to interrupt the type of breathing that triggered the alarms, as the baby spontaneously resumed normal, deeper breathing. All new parents who monitored with cot watch were given a questionnaire on which to record all alarms for 2 weeks. 28 of the monitored babies were near miss. Babies who stopped breathing were found in time and successfully resuscitated. A further 22 newborn babies were monitored by choice of the parents. Records by parents of near-miss babies showed substantially higher numbers of alarms compared with the number of alarms reported for newborn babies. We realized that the alarms were an important indicator of stress levels in the babies. We concluded that when babies are under stress, whether due to insult or while cutting their teeth or incubating an illness, their breathing changes to what we named the stress-induced breathing pattern, and they experienced episodes of low-volume breathing in clusters at critical hours while asleep. We could not find a pediatrician who would undertake independent research to elucidate and further develop our ideas based on the initial observations with cot watch, so we decided to do the necessary data collection and research ourselves. And in that, folks, is some cold hard words of wisdom. Ourselves, more and more I'm realizing that too many of us might be looking to others to make the first move so that we can fall in behind them, and it's about time we realize that that's not the way it works. That's not the way a sovereign works. You know, the Gandhi adage, be the change you want to see in the world, means just that. You be the change you want to see in the world, not find someone else who seems to be trying to bring about a similar sort of change that you want to see in the world. It means you do whatever you can do to bring about the change you want to see in the world. Anyway, carrying on. At this time in 1988, we did not know the merits of vaccination were being hotly debated, and we did not know that a lot of evidence on its dangers and ineffectiveness had been published in very reputable medical journals. We saw only that DPT vaccinations cause babies a lot of stress, reflected in sometimes major flare-ups of stress-induced breathing over a period of at least 45 to 60 days following the injections. The dynamics of these flare-ups showed a remarkable uniformity. Even though the amplitude of the flare-ups differed, the days on which they occurred following injection were the same. Pediatricians to whom we first showed our records pointed to the arrow indicating day 0 when DPT injection was administered. They commented without hesitation, "This is the cause." Then pointing to the summaries of stress-induced breathing patterns over several days, each unfailingly followed with, "This is the effect." They of course knew that the day 0 arrow indicated the DPT injection. We also learned from parents who monitored a subsequent child after a cot death that most commonly the previous child had died after DPT injection. We realized that a great number of cot deaths followed DPT injections, and we felt we had to address the issue. However, when we approached a few pediatricians with this observation and conclusion, we realized that we had touched a very sensitive and contentious issue. Once again, we were forced to start our own research for the truth. Several years later, I collected just about every publication written on the subject excuse me, of the effectiveness and dangers of vaccines. Supported by data from our continuing research with the Copwatch breathing monitor, I decided to write a concise and brief summary of my literature.